Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Week 1 of DraftKings main slate is in the books, but we have a split slate of Monday Night Football. 2 games this week. If you haven't already, go check out my video for the Houston-New Orleans game and the featured showdown, the Denver Broncos against the Oakland Raiders. And boy, is this game gonna be ugly. With Antonio Brown off the team and on his way to New England, that's going to leave one less option, but a lot more market share of targets and usage to go to a bunch of other players that are on the Raiders that are priced down, assuming that Antonio Brown was going to be in play for this game. So there is a little bit of value that's opened up on this slate with the highest priced player on the board now off the board. The Broncos provide what they provide. We know who the players are and where the volume is going to go on that team. This is going to be a very interesting showdown slate with $400,000 in the top GPP on DraftKings at a $10 price point. Thank you guys very much for joining once again. If you would not mind dropping a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, make sure that you ring the notifications bell, as I've got 6, 7, 8 videos that are going to be lined up every single week of NFL season to try and help you out on DraftKings, starting with the Monday first look, the recap of the previous week and how I did, moving all the way through until the lineup builder show on Friday. We record every single one of those videos live on Twitch. So please, if you would, write down below in the description, if you would go to Twitch, follow me there so that I can meet you and see you live on stream and interact with you on the chat, because we do more than just record these videos. I spend a whole lot of time on stream every day going back and forth with my chat over there. So please drop by, say hello. I would love for you to, or I would love to see you over in the chat on twitch.tv. Now, the site that I use for projections and for an optimizer is dailyroto.com. People ask me all the time on Twitter, on Instagram, what site do you use for projections? What do you use to build your lineups for the Millionaire Maker and for these showdown slates? I use dailyroto.com. Down below in the description is a link that you can use to go subscribe, whether it's going to be for an NFL only subscription or the elite subscription, which covers every single sport that they do, projections and optimizer for every sport: MLB, NBA, NFL, NHL, college football, golf. Everything that you need in daily fantasy is there under that elite package. Just use one of the links down below in the description or check out with promo code smizzle, and that will get you 10% off of your new membership at dailyroto.com. I've also done a few videos with them if you want to learn how to use the optimizer better or learn their tactics for trying to be better at showdown, how to win at showdown slates. Those videos are also available for you if you want to click on those videos to check them out, maybe get a run through and learn how to toy with their optimizer a little bit better. Now, looking at this slate, obviously Antonio Brown and Crazy Town are out of the play. They're off the Raiders after all the things that he did. I mean, it doesn't appear that he even wanted to play for this Raiders team, right? Like, just never. Raiders give up a 3rd and a 5th to Pittsburgh for the rights to obtain him. The Patriots offered a number 1 pick back in the summer for Antonio Brown, and they wouldn't trade him to the Patriots because they didn't want him to end up there. We don't want him on a team that we think has a chance that we're going to have to play in the playoffs, so let's send him over to the Raiders. The Raiders give him $30 million, never end up paying him a penny, as he tried everything under the sun to get released from my helmet. Doesn't work. He froze his feet almost off his legs, got into a fight on the field with the general manager, told them to release him on Instagram. They do, and he still ends up on the Patriots. They still get to keep their 1st round pick, and the Steelers are crying because now they have to deal with Antonio Brown, but we don't have to deal with him on this slate. So $1,700 for him and the captain off the list. Derek Carr and Joe Flacco are probably going to project in this game as the highest median projected players. However, I'm going to mention this a lot this year, it's a stat that you need to familiarize yourself with and really understand. Captains win you the showdown slate. And while quarterbacks tend to have the highest median projection, they don't have the highest ceiling possibility, right? So a median projection takes in all the possible outcomes that could ever happen, and it gives you the meat of the bell curve, and this is where it is. So they're going to end up, if you use an optimizer, at the captain spot a lot. But realistically speaking, if we look back at the 65, 70 showdown slates from last season, 71% of the winners came from the running back and the wide receiver spot in the captain. So while I will have shares of Derek Carr and probably will have shares of Joe Flacco and captain, I am going to limit those in the Daily Roto Optimizer to keep them lower so that I don't get 25% or 35% or 40% of Derek Carr captain lineups. I want to build more of my lineups through the other skill positions to give me a chance at a ceiling, because that's what we're looking for. I tend to try and play these single game showdown slates for fun. I try to bink a tournament, which means to win a tournament. I am totally understanding and accepting of the high variance, the nature of these single showdown games. Daily fantasy in and of itself is a very high variance game. Single game showdown just turns that variance all the way up to 11. So if you're going to play with Derek Carr in your captain spot, that means that you're going to make groups with at least 2 of his pass catchers, at least one of the players on the other team, skill players. It's going to be highly involved, bringing it back the other way. Same thing goes for Joe Flacco. 2 of his pass catchers, that would include Phillip Lindsay, if you're going with that, with him in the captain spot. But again, this is something that you want to limit. Maybe Emmanuel Sanders, 2 of Emmanuel Sanders, Phillip Lindsay, any other ones of the pass catchers, Cortland Sutton, the tight ends, whoever, minimum, not a minimum, at least 2 of the pass catchers on the Broncos, and then at least 1 player on the Oakland Raiders who would be catching passes, assuming that if Joe Flacco's having a monster game, that they're playing from ahead, which means that the other team would have to be throwing and you'd be picking up extra targets on the other side. Now, we talked about this before. I want to have more of the other positions in the captain spot. Emmanuel Sanders seems to be the second coming of Wolverine, as he came back faster than I've ever seen somebody come back from an Achilles tear and looked phenomenal during the preseason. If he is going to be the highest target market share player on this Broncos offense, we can make fun of Joe Flacco, and football Twitter typically does. He can still throw it a little bit, and he can throw it better than any of the young arms that they've got on that Broncos sideline. While he is there, Emmanuel Sanders is going to get fed. He has the big playability to still get deep, although muted from what he was before. But during the preseason, they were just getting the ball into his hands, and in full PPR like DraftKings, those are easy money catches. We saw it from Jamison Crowder yesterday, getting 12, 13 catches in that game against the Bills. I'm not predicting that sort of outcome for Emmanuel Sanders, but he's not going to be a guy that just runs high 8-out route, high average depth of target routes where he's going to convert 1 of every 3. He's going to have ones that are a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. You're going to let Sutton get deep, which is going to result in a lot of a high floor of catches. If you get 6 catches out of Emmanuel Sanders, that's essentially like scoring a touchdown. You get those 6 points on your team, as well as all the yards that go along with it. You can plug him into captain spot. If you plug him into captain spot, that means that I'm going to make those groups so that every one of my Emmanuel Sanders in captain lineup has Joe Flacco attached to it. Very important to work on your groups as you go through and build lineups for single game showdown. Josh Jacobs should see a higher volume of play. There's a few guys who are going to benefit. Josh Jacobs is one of them. The offensive line is bad. It's an upgrade and a downgrade. So he's going to get more use because they have to change the way that they are going to run offense. So he's going to see a few more targets. He's going to get more usage, but this is now a much worse offense. So like, it's the old philosophy of, would you rather have, 50% of a watermelon or 100% of a grape, right? So with Antonio Brown there, this was a much better offense. And even though you had a smaller market share, those would have been more efficient, more effective touches. So Josh Jacobs, somebody who might take a step back in terms of this entire offense taking a step back, his volume should get there on a week in, week out basis, which at running back is the best indicator of the ability to score fantasy points. You know that they're going to have volume. You know that floor is there. And with the ceiling that he has with his game breaking ability and tackle breaking ability, puts him in play. I think the price is a little bit high for captain in this spot. I will have some captain shares, but I probably want to have less in the field. Phillip Lindsay, massive big playability from this kid. You want to capture as much touchdown equity as you can when playing Showdown. You want to capture as much big playability as you can when playing Showdown. If I have Lindsay in the captain, I don't feel the need to have Joe Flacco locked to him in those captains groups, but I will include Joe Flacco in a group where it says, give me at least 2 other Broncos along with Phillip Lindsay. The question is, are your groups with Phillip Lindsay going to also include Royce Freeman? And I don't think that they are. Royce Freeman is a little bit counterproductive, and I don't think that both of these guys are going to go off very often. I will probably make a group excluding Freeman from Lindsay captain lineups and excluding Lindsay from Freeman captain lineups. Freeman should see, in my opinion, more carries on the season than will Phillip Lindsay. I think that he's going to see the majority of the goal line work, while Lindsay might outtouch him with usage in the passing game overall. A couple of other players that we have to talk about. Hunter Renfrow takes a step forward, the rookie out of Clemson. Really good receiver, does not look like an NFL player, does not matter. He can produce on the field. Waller is somebody who's going to see a massive uptick in volume and is very underpriced for this slate, considering that Antonio Brown is gone. If they throw it 30 to 35 times a game, Waller, Williams, and a couple of other players are going to take a step forward. So Terrell Williams, those of you who know me know that I love the Gazelle, one of my favorite players in the NFL, just from a meme standpoint. He sees the biggest uptick in terms of volume, but he will also see every team's number one cornerback. So an efficiency downgrade, a volume upgrade. The Raiders are going to throw the ball enough to make him viable, especially while he's still underpriced on this slate, considering that Antonio Brown, he is slated as the number 2 wide receiver and priced there as the number 2 wide receiver, but getting number 1 wide receiver usage. The biggest jump, in my opinion, is Jalen Richard, who should see more work in the Raiders pass game than he was even going to see before. And he already had a sizable chunk. He was going to get 100 to 150 touches this year. Now he might get more work in the passing game, kind of like we saw out of Tariq Cohen on the Thursday night football game, where he played the 95% of his snaps were played at wide receiver. Jalen Richard is that good in space. I can see the Raiders trying to scheme to get him the ball in opportunistic places where he can win. At 3,800, he is going to be a staple of a lot of lineups on this slate to allow you to afford as many of the high-priced guys as you can. And if used at the captain spot, you're only looking at 5,700, which allows you to plug in guys like Sanders, plug in Derek Carr, plug in Terrell Williams. You can afford pretty much anything you want on this slate because of the very moderate pricing as a result of Antonio Brown no longer being on the slate. So thank you guys very much for being here. I appreciate you showing up once again. Please click that like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you ring the notifications bell, as I've got a ton of new videos coming out every week, and I would not want you to miss any of them. So I'll catch up to you next time. Bye.